Hey kids, and welcome to the show. Today we're going to be talking about inflation again, and probably again and again and again and again. But I did want to talk a little bit about economics and how that is causing inflation right now, and what we need to look out for, and why it's such a bad thing for our economy. But it also isn't something to be completely scared of, as long as you are doing some really smart and just smart, intelligent things. So, hyperinflation. How do we explain this to somebody who doesn't understand what what the supply chain, what the market supply chain is? So let's just talk about a couple of things. Let's start off with a gallon of milk. Just went in for a gallon of milk the other day and walked up to it, and it was $5. $5 for a gallon of milk. Last year, a couple years ago, it was under $5. I remember paying $2.50, $3. It's gone up in price. Milk is going to continue to go up in price as long as there's a supply and demand issue for it. So why is there such a demand right now? Well, milk is one of those things that people just buy because you're supposed to buy it. You go to the store, you get milk, eggs, and bread. You get those three things, and typically back during the Depression, if you could get those three things, you could do just about everything. If you got milk, eggs, and flour, you could make a lot of meals. So we have kind of moved past that because you could get anything you want now at the grocery store. There was a time our grandparents couldn't walk into the local grocery store and buy a lobster, and you can do that now. It might be frozen, but you can buy a lobster. It's pretty awesome. And for years and years, we have been able to just get anything we want whenever we want. We walk into the store and say, you know what? I want some fresh thyme to cook with today. And so you go to the produce section and you see all this beautiful produce laid out, and there's thyme and there's ginger and there's rosemary and all the other herbs, the oregano, all the fresh herbs. And then you go down the spice aisle, and every spice you could think of that you want there to store on your shelf is there. You get your paprikas and you get your cinnamon and all those wonderful spices. And then you go and you're just enjoying the ability to do that. Well, when we had the economic crash during the Great Depression, that wasn't what you could do. We talked about soup kitchens and bread lines. People were literally in line. We had to start rationing and things. And you guys can look up some stuff in the Great Depression. But when you're rationing, eggs, milk, and flour or bread are very important. You get some salt, you could feed your family. It's not going to be great, but you could feed your family for a long time. We are so lucky to be born here. For me personally, I was born in the United States. We are blessed to be in the United States, where we have just about anything we want, whenever we want it. We can literally, hit a few buttons on our device, whatever device you have, and something will arrive at your door in a day or two. Something that our grandparents might not have ever dreamed of that could arrive at your door in a day or two. So then you have to pay for this stuff. What's happened over the last 2 years with all this spending, and I'm not blaming anybody, but the spending went crazy. It went out of control. Sounds like there's a big truck going by. The spending went out of control. The senators, all the Congress people, they were just, the legislature, spend. The president, last president, this president, spend. And all that money has to go someplace. Well, one of the places they get the money is by raising the fuel costs. One of the ways to raise the fuel costs is to make it, put it more in demand. So you cancel the pipelines, you cancel all this, like the Keystone Pipeline and everything. You cancel that. You artificially lower the production of fuel, which raises the price, and the government gets 18% of the raised price. So 18%, $100, that's $18. If gas is $1, they're getting 18 cents. $100 of gas, $18 to the government. They raise the price to $2 a gallon, and guess what? Same thing. Government's doubling their money. So for every $100 or for every $200, they're getting that. So they're doubling their money because we still have to use the same amount of gas. It's not like you can just say, well, I'm just not going to use any more gas. But once you've gotten into a routine where you have your vehicle, you drive to work, you drive back and forth, you know how much gas you need to use. Some people don't keep track. Some people just go to the pump and fill it up and keep going. You need to start paying attention to these things because you have to start deciding whether driving to work is worth it. If gas goes back up to $5 a gallon, which is what it did when we were owning our food truck under the Obama-Biden administration, it was $5, over $5 for diesel. I see that happening again. And we started a successful business in that economic crisis. There was a downturn. There was a housing bubble too that we dealt with back in 2008. Same administration, but that's a different story. So what are we seeing now? We're going to see, we see the trucker shortages in Canada. We are going to we see supply chain issues. We got this bad weather coming in, so I went in and get a little bit extra formula for the baby and a little bit of water and a couple of supplies. Not a big deal, but people are freaking out in the store. And there are things missing. There's things just not there. And I've said it before, sometimes, you can't go in there and you can't get the 50,000 different types of spices or the 17 different kinds of salt. There were only 3 kinds of salts available, and eventually it will be 1. And that's kind of what happened during the Great Depression. Things started to inflate in price, so you had fewer choices on the store shelves, and then eventually things didn't happen. And people think that, okay, well, let's raise the minimum wage and that will help. Well, here's the problem with raising the minimum wage like that. Minimum wage jobs, and I'm going to speak to mine. My first minimum wage job was actually working in a restaurant for my mom. She had a little restaurant. I worked there after school, mopped up the floor, cleaned up a little bit. That was it. She paid me pretty good, but it was it was a mom and pop. It was actually just mom. So that was in junior high. I got my first real corporate job working for the Golden Arches. I was a 15-year-old cook working for the Golden Arches, making, I think it was $3.85 an hour, $3.85 an hour. It was a minute ago. Problem is, it was a minute ago. And back then, I could take that $3.50 an hour, $3.85 an hour. I think I got it raised to $4.25 while I was working there, which was freaking awesome because I could take that $4.25 an hour and I could probably take a girl on a date. And we could probably eat at McDonald's, probably get 2 value meals. So, because $4 an hour translated to, I was working about 20, 30 hours a week. I made enough money to do some really cool things. I could take girls on dates. I could buy some stuff that I wanted. I could put gas in the vehicle. So, yeah, that's what it was. And more important than anything else, I got experience. And that was one of those jobs I really disliked. I was thinking about dropping out of school. And I was like, I don't want to work here for my entire life. Nothing against McDonald's, but for me, I didn't want to work there my entire life. And it kept me in school. I said, I got to do something different. So I graduated, I joined the military. That was my choice. I joined because I wanted to do something different. The military offered me that opportunity. I was able to leave my hometown, learn something new, and get some life experience. If I had gotten paid $15 an hour back then, or $10, shoot, minimum wage now, I think it's bad, guys. Yeah, yes, that's today's minimum wage. Ugh. Anyway, if minimum wage had gone up, I would have just spent more money, right? The thing is, when the minimum wage goes up, that little burger flipper, that burger, let's talk Waffle House, because Waffle House they are really cool. I love Waffle House. I spent a lot of time at Waffle House when I was a kid. My mom was a waitress at a Waffle House when I was really small, so I got to sit in the corner booth, do my homework and stuff, and I got to see my mom work. And my mom's a really hard worker. Always has been, still is. Lady works hard. Anyhow, when she was working there, minimum wage, again, $3.85, $4.25 an hour. Well, it would have been less than $3.85. I'd have to look that up and put it up because it would have been when I was young, very young. But when I did look it up, she could buy the meal, the number one all-star, whatever the main meal was. I think it was back then. I think it was the burger, hash brown, and drink, and she could afford to buy that with an hour's worth of work. Today, a cashier or let's not say a server because they get paid less. Let's say a cook. The cook can't afford to pay for that meal. The meal's over $9 with 1 hour's pay. So if a cook comes in and they're only making a minimum wage, Waffle House I think pays a little more than the minimum wage. So I'm not hating on Waffle House. The idea is this: if an hour of your labor can buy you a meal, things are okay. But when that meal becomes $9 and you're only making $7.25 an hour, then you can't buy that meal with 1 hour of labor. That labor is costing you 1.5 hours. So people don't realize that everything trickles down. Fuel costs go up. Because why? This is what they do. The government cuts production. Fuel costs go up because we have to import fuel. We have oil here. We've got to import oil. That artificially raises the oil prices, which raises the fuel prices, which gives the government more money because of taxes, because taxes go up. Fuel consumption doesn't go up. The price goes up because of demand, and then it goes up. So the price goes up. So now you're paying more. It's like, dang it. It used to cost me $30 to fill up the tank. Now it costs me $50 to fill up my tank. I better go to the grocery store and get some milk. Whoa, shoot. They just passed a $15 minimum wage, and it looks like the milk now costs $13. And $13 for a gallon of milk? Oh, crap. Okay, I got to get the milk because we got to get it for the cereal. Oh, shoot, the cereal costs more. Why does the cereal cost more? And it just keeps going up and down the aisle. And then when you start to see that, that's more. And usually it's like 5 cents here, 5 cents there, because they're smart. If they raise everything at once, everybody's going to freak out. But right now, and this is how you're going to survive, okay? This is how people survived during the Great Depression. You get yourself your notebook out. Get yourself some anything. Start writing down how much money you make. Start writing down how much money you spend. And stop spending anything that's not written down. It's just called making a budget. Because right now you have to find out what your food costs are. If you want your family to survive, get your budget in line, find out what you're paying every month, find out what your food costs. Because when that food cost reaches 40% of your take-home pay, you will be in an uncontrollable crisis. You will not be able to come back. And what history has shown us is that at 40%, revolutions happen within countries. So if food costs reach 40%, we're going to start to see even more anti-government stuff, more hurt feelings, more all that. You need to make sure that your food expenses don't go to 40%. Keep them at 20% if you can. And the way you do that, and you have to get on this. Might be your last chance. The way you do this is you start providing some of the food yourself. You start learning how to use big dishes, which means use rice, use beans. Those things are staples. They can be on a shelf forever. Start stocking up on that stuff, number one. And then number two, start making sure that when you buy stuff, you don't buy processed stuff. As easy as that is, take a day out of the week. One day a week, process your own food. Get yourself a big tube of hamburger. If you want hamburger, get a big tube, 20-pound tube, 10-pound tube, whatever. Divide that up, put it in Ziploc bags, I like using butcher paper. You can get some deli paper, wrap it in a butcher paper, label it, stick it in the freezer, okay? You will save, I kid you not, on hamburger, you will save about half. When you buy it 20 pounds at a time, you're gonna pay half of what you're gonna pay when you buy it 1 pound at a time. So start doing that, number one. Even that's going to go up in price. So please start paying attention, because minimum wage goes up, inflation goes up, because fuel costs go up. Fuel costs go up, the truckers have to pass that cost along to the people that are delivering the food to. The people that are getting that food have to pass that cost down to the people that are going to serve that food or cook that food. And then, yeah, it just keeps going down the line. So yes, when you go into a grocery store and you see an apple and it's like, oh, that apple looks so delicious, and oh, it's only $1 a pound, and this apple's only, man, it's like a 25-cent apple. This is a delicious apple, and you're paying 25 cents for that apple. Know that there's a lot of subsidies that go into that. And oh my goodness, the amount of people that it took to get that apple to you. There was the farmer that planted the tree that produced the apple, and it fell out or got harvested. that person had to process it. It had to be packaged. And then from the packaging, it had to be put on a truck. From the truck, it had to be moved to a warehouse. From the warehouse, it got put on another truck. From another truck, it got brought to the grocery store. From the grocery store, it got put in that warehouse, brought up front, put on the shelf, and you got a 25-cent apple. Isn't that awesome? Break the supply chain. That apple now can't do all that fancy stuff, and only a couple apples. That apple has now become $10 for one apple. That's what happened during the Great Depression. Things got super expensive. And when we look at a hyperinflation, our dollar starts to get worth less, which is why that's why the government's fighting against cryptocurrency right now, because that kind of gives a little bit of fear on the US dollar. The US dollar has just not been there. The Fed is talking about raising interest rates. That is going to freak everybody out. People are going to start saying, oh my gosh, we're going to have to pay 18% for a house loan, a mortgage loan. And yes, that's what happened in the 80s. And people went, it was awesome. But right now, we're using free money. They're printing money and they're sending money. 0% for a car, 0% for a house, 0%, or 1%, 2%. We have lived a life of luxury without interest rates being high. It's time for the interest rates to go up, and they're going to go up quick. The cost of living is not going to keep up. The interest rates are going to go crazy up. It's going to be almost impossible to buy a house, but a lot of people are going to lose their houses. So get yourself in order. If you want to buy a house, last year I said sell, 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 sell. This year, in a couple of months, I might be saying buy, 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 because there are going to be so many people losing their homes that there's going to be a lot of houses on the market. I'm not saying take advantage of people that are losing their homes. I'm saying the government took advantage of them. And one of the things they did to take advantage of them was they helped them by making them not pay for their mortgages. And that was the COVID relief. Don't pay your mortgage. Mortgage moratorium, mortgage moratorium, mortgage moratorium. The landlords didn't get paid. Some of them didn't get paid. The tenants didn't pay. This isn't everybody. These are isolated cases, sure, whatever. But they're out there. And there are a lot of people that took those little COVID loans with their mortgage company, and those COVID loans came with stipulations. Like if you tried to sell your house within a certain amount of time, they were going to give you a penalty, and sometimes that penalty completely wiped out your equity. So look at your contracts if you signed anything after COVID, because it's very possible that the government has taken your equity out of your home in a time where your equity is super important. Right now, you need to think about budgets. Stop eating out. And because that Big Mac is going to cost $13. The second minimum wage goes up to $15 an hour, I promise you that Big Mac will be about maybe 11, 12 bucks. Just be aware that if your food costs, again, I'm going to repeat this, if your food costs get to 40%, you are going to be in crisis mode. And if your housing cost is more than 25%, you are going to be in crisis mode. Do you hear what I'm saying? That's already 60% of what you have. And that hasn't even gone into, most people pay more than 20% for their housing. Most people pay more than 25. A lot of people are paying 40% for their housing. So if, let's say you're paying 40% of your income for your housing and you are at 20% of your income for food, that's awesome, right? Beautiful. But you're okay. It sucks that you're at 40%, but you're there, you're surviving, 20% food. That food cost goes to 20% or 30% of your income, 30 or 40% of your income. They double, then all of a sudden 80% of your income is going for food and your mortgage. And 20% of your income has to pay for insurance and light and electricity, propane or gas, and then you have gas for your car, insurance for your car. Some of you guys have car notes. Yeah, it's gonna be ugly because all those loans have come due. People are seeing foreclosure letters and they're screaming about minimum wage. So here it is. Minimum wage doesn't matter. Learn a skill. Flipping burgers. It's a great job to gain some experience, learn how to work on a team. Like I said, I'm not hating on McDonald's. They were a great job at the time. I actually had two options. I got offered a job at McDonald's and I got offered a job at Applebee's. Applebee's as a server, I would have made a lot more money and it would have been a lot cooler job. McDonald's as a cook sucked. Less money, no tips, sucked job. I chose McDonald's because they offered me the job first. First to the door. The person from Applebee's said, you're going to regret it. You're going to wish you took this job. And I'm like, you know what? They offered me the job, I'm going to take it. I'm going to see how this flies. And I hated it, but it gave me wisdom that I would not have gotten at Applebee's. I had a lot of friends that worked at Applebee's. That would have been fun, and I probably would have just been screwing off and hanging out with them and not doing what I could have done. But as a cook at McDonald's, I had to focus. I had to watch the food and learn. And I went from a 15-year-old cook at McDonald's to one day winning an international award from Roaming Hunger, or Mobile Cuisine. You know, it was Mobile Cajun Food Truck of the Year. We got second place. Wasn't first, we got second place. But that's pretty good from a little kid from a little town in Louisiana working at McDonald's and then being able to call himself a chef one day. Those minimum wage jobs need to be minimum wage jobs for those 15-year-old, 16-year-old, 17-year-old kids that are trying to make things, just trying to hustle, because their focus doesn't need to be on girls or boys or anything else. It doesn't need to be on, it just needs to be on their education. And if you give a kid $20 an hour, $15 an hour to flip burgers, I promise you, you will hurt this country. I think you will hurt this country, because right now we are in a country of, unfortunately, weak men. There's Strauss-House theory, the fourth turning. It's a great book. I haven't finished it yet, but I've been reading it. But it talks, the great thing, the idea is that hard times make strong men. Strong men make good times make weak men make hard times make strong men. So we are in this cycle. It's an 80-year cycle of good times, and we have made weak men. But the weak men will make things hard, and guess what? They're hard right now, which means we are in the process of making strong men. I have a son that I love, two sons that I love, one over there that is not a man yet, and one that is a man. The one that's not a man yet, he's gonna be pretty awesome. The one that is a man, he's pretty awesome. The problem is, this world is changing, but it's not different. History is a wonderful thing, and Mark Twain said, history doesn't repeat itself, it rhymes. And it does. Look at what's happening. We've seen this all before. We've survived a couple years of this pandemic. We can survive a little inflation, a little depression. What you need to do, though, is realize that debt is your enemy. Get rid of as much debt as you can right now, because all the wealthy people don't have debt. And when the poor people lose everything, the wealthy people will buy it up and rent it back to the poors. It's the way life has always been. Luckily, here in the United States, we still live in a place where a little kid from the South can grow up to be whatever he or she wants. And to my 5 kids, I'm going to tell you, yeah, this depression with this inflation is going to be tough for the next few months. But you're going to be strong men and women at the end. And I can't wait to see what your generation does next. Sorry the last generation screwed everything up. But we've got a good generation coming up. We just got to get rid of all those crazies. And you know who I'm talking about. So until next time, work hard, be kind.